All right, so you're thinking EVs maybe have had their time in the sun. We've seen a lot of new moves, but guess who is making moves again? And that is BYD with their new Dolphin, formerly the EA1. I'm going to dive into it today and hopefully give you guys a little bit more of an insight. Welcome back to TechBoth. I am Paul Barron. And of course, as you guys know, we've done a lot of content right here on TechPath around BYD. And the kind of concept I think that a lot of people, our viewers, especially, it's still one of our most popular videos that we get is people discovering BYD for the first time. Obviously, if you don't know already, Warren Buffett, one of the major investors in BYD, the potential for what BYD is doing worldwide in terms of both manufacturing, but even more importantly is some of their technology. So I said, hey, let's get our standing resident expert on BYD, and that's Mr. Taylor Ogan, coming to us from Snowbull Capital. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me back on.
All right, so Taylor, let's get into the Dolphin. A little bit about this one. I'm seeing this impressive new platform. Obviously, this rolled out at Shanghai, but they call it the E platform. Now we've seen a little bit more about it. So it's going to allow quite a bit here, 0 to 100, 2.9. You've got a range of more than 1,620 miles, a charge time of 5 minutes. I mean, all these things just absolutely blow me away in terms of what's happening in the EV space. What are your thoughts on where BYD is going, and is this a precursor to really for them to try to take on Tesla and Tesla's plan for the $25,000 electric vehicle?
Yeah, so the one thing about some of these articles in English on BYD, this is pretty common, is they kind of piece together aspects that BYD has presented that it's not. With this one, the car will be the first to be on the E 3.0 platform that BYD unveiled at the Shanghai Auto Show, where they unveiled this car. And that E Platform 3.0 is their platform that they are going to use for most of their passenger vehicles going forward, and also with a lot of their partners like Toyota. And that platform's capable. It's an 800 volt architecture, which is very impressive in and of itself. But that platform it's basically like the skateboard. So it's the battery pack using the new Blade battery that we'll hopefully get to hear more about, as if Blade needed to be updated. They have something else. It's even better. So it has the newest battery technology, which is the safest battery technology in the entire industry, using an iron phosphate pack, which is typically from others not a super high performance chemistry, but this BYD has done it. They've been making batteries for 25 years, so they know how to do it. But it is capable of 1,000 kilometers. So that's 620 miles of range. It's capable of going 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. That doesn't mean that this Dolphin EA1 is going to necessarily have that kind of performance and range. We know the wheelbase doesn't even allow for that, but it's the first to be on that platform. So just to clarify that, we still don't know the range. We still don't know. We do know quite a bit about the price, and that's the big thing here. Is that this car is going to cost about, in US dollars, about $10,000 US. And even in the segment that it's in, there's the Wuling Mini that has been selling like hotcakes in China, and that's about a $4,500 car. And that's outselling Tesla. I mean, it's outselling pretty much everyone else almost combined in a few months. So everyone's trying to get into that space. But so you can't really compare a $4,500 car to a $10,000 car, even though they may sound cheap. Those are totally different buyers in China. But this is a compact car, and also, by the way, so $10,000 just starting. You can't buy a $10,000 electric car with over 100 miles of range. This thing will probably have up to 300 miles range, maybe even more, depending on which spec you get. But again, we'll find out more in the next month, hopefully. Yeah, just to give you a sense of how cheap this car is, it's for Australia. Australia's now BYD is selling some cars in Australia, and kind of as a test bed for expanding into the broader Western market. And if this Dolphin goes on sale for with all the tariffs and import tax and everything, it will cost about 21,000 US dollars in Australia. The cheapest electric car you can buy currently in Australia is about 45,000 US dollars, the base. So this is completely undercutting everyone else. And even though it's more than double after you add everything on, that's still. And so how are they able to produce a car with that much range, with all these features? New pictures of the interior just leaked today, and it's a different looking car, I'll say, and maybe not for me, but this car is targeted for the younger first-time drivers in China, and that's a very big market.
Big market.
So this car, a $10,000 car, and also it's electric, and so you can now get license plates, and you don't have to enter into a lottery in a lot of cities. So that alone is great. It's also compact, so you can park it in a lot of places. BYD's charging infrastructure is vast, and they've partnered with the state grids across China as well. So plenty of places to charge, and it charges faster, DC fast charging, than Tesla's highest powered V3 supercharger. So again, it doesn't look like this little car is capable of so much, but it is. And so we don't know the acceleration. No, people in China don't really care about acceleration like they do maybe in other parts of the world. But the range is definitely a big one. And so this will have plenty of range. And and it was just unveiled 2 months ago, and it's already going on sale at $10,000. So they have their apparently. They could strip out a lot of it and get down to that Wuling Mini price level with this kind of battery pack. It would cannibalize all of those sales.
Do you think though that their strategy is to go toward the Wuling market share, or do you feel like, I mean, because now you're getting a car that could be similar to, Tesla's, $25,000 compact car, that would essentially be undercutting this, especially in China, which is a big market where Tesla needs to be able to sell this $25,000 compact car for it to succeed on a global scale. Even though there's probably a lot of pundits out there that would disagree with me on that, but the reality is China still is, I would say, the key market for Tesla's success is China. And if you've got all of these new market players, especially someone like a BYD, who are already starting to put some pressure on. You've got Wuling already taking out the low-end market. Could this be the vehicle that goes in and starts to really cannibalize that $25,000 price point from a much smaller or less expensive price point, but yet at the same time has a lot of similarities in terms of the scale and scope of the vehicle, in terms of range, performance, and potentially even some of the benefits and services of it? Do you feel like that's the direction they're going?
Not for this model, but this is the name Dolphin, which, by the way, I don't think that name would sell well in other countries, but in the Chinese
here in Miami, it would sell great. Are you kidding me?
Right. Yes, but maybe just there. But yeah, so that's part of the Marine series, and so they've trademarked Seagull and Shark, and so they have all of these different names. But we know that what's currently codenamed internally the UX model and the EK model. So the EK model is the sedan, and then the UX model is the SUV. Those are the two other cars that will come out later this year from BYD. Those are probably going to go after the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y buyers. This one, not so much. This is a very specifically targeted towards younger people. It comes in 4 different trims, and you can customize the heck out of it. You can like what stitching. It's like you're buying a sports car, and you can customize the stitching and the steering wheel and things like that. So and it has, some of them are more sporty, a sportier package. It's not even a package. It's a totally different body trim. And then there are some that are targeted towards women, and there's one that is targeted for more like artsy people. I mean, it's a fun car for younger people, not so much the Model 3 and Model Y buyers in China. But you say that Tesla sees China as a big market, and I would agree with that. Until quite recently, they're exporting cars made in China to other countries, and that was not supposed to be part of the plan at least for the first 2 years, and they started doing it 3/4 in. So I think,
You feel like that's a demand situation?
yeah, I mean, it is. Otherwise, they would just be selling the cars directly in China. They wouldn't be putting them on ships and then sending them to Europe, where they already had Fremont supplying Europe. So yeah, I wouldn't
okay,
say it as a good
but
thing.
to your point, one point I want to make here is that you're comparing that to this new. What I'm looking at is more of the compact side of Tesla, the vehicle that, whether it's the 2023 or further, I mean, that's going to be a $25,000 EV. So that would be able to compete in this category, would it not?
Uh, well, a $10,000 car versus a $25,000 car,
Well, I'm talking
and
about if they were to go into exporting this into Europe, obviously going head to head with BYD in China, that's probably a losing position, for Tesla. So they're going to have to either find a new market for that, or it's going to have to be that upscale person that's wanting to buy the Tesla. And that's going to not be necessarily a huge, I can't imagine that would be a huge market for Tesla there.
yeah, well, I think that Tesla definitely, because you look at BYD has unveiled 8 different models this year alone, and
Right.
Tesla took 2 quarters to refresh an 8-year-old car. So
Mm-hmm.
Tesla, what I think, to not save Tesla necessarily, I think Tesla's still doing very well. But what I think Tesla needs in China is a whole lineup of cars. And it's not just a Cybertruck that's very different and probably won't be as popular in China. There are not a lot of pickup trucks there compared to the United States. And then have a Model S and a Model X, which are, once you have the luxury tax and import tax, those are almost $250,000 cars in China. So
Right.
that's why they opened that factory, right? So they can actually sell it for an affordable price, the Model 3 and Model Y. So I think they need more cars, not just the Model A or the $25,000 model. They need like 6 new models if they want to compete with some of these others.
In
Now
China.
they can still, yeah, right, but they can still dominate the luxury car market in China, and it's a big market, and they are.
Sure.
So I think that Tesla's still well positioned there. There is a lot of competition coming in the luxury space, but we already see the Neos and the Xiaopengs and the Lees and the BYD Han and the BYD Tong. Those are luxury cars, on the lower end for some of those, but still Tesla is dominating that space, I'd say. But in terms of, if Tesla does want to break into these lower price points, then that's a whole nother game. And of course they want to, because that unlocks it's so much bigger total addressable market. But right now they are kind of going after a sliver that is still, in comparison to the United States, very big. But the sweet spot is, of course, the much cheaper vehicles, and these days with China, they have to be electric. So
Right.
we know that they're going to be electric because there already are cheap internal combustion engine vehicles. It's not where China wants to go as a country. So we know they're going to be electric, and there aren't a lot. And the reason that BYD can sell a car for $10,000 and still make money, and the car can go over 250, 300 miles, is because they make the battery. Remember, BYD is the only company in the world, the only auto company in the world
Vertically
that makes
integrated.
electric vehicles and makes its own battery. Now, Tesla eventually down the line will have the 4680, of course, and other companies are investing heavily in batteries, but batteries are hard, and it's not like just making a car. You really have to, there are a lot of different components that you have to tinker with chemically for years. And BYD has been doing that. It's a battery company at heart that just now, more recently, makes electric vehicles. So
Right.
they know the battery, and they also have the cheapest battery, right? It's around 83, 84 US dollars per kilowatt hour at the pack level. No one is even broken below the $100, right? And that's the sweet spot. That's the tipping point, everything. And this is their old, like last year's battery, right? Now they're coming out with a new battery. And then they even say that they have a solid state battery ready. And we've seen the patents. We know that BYD has more battery patents than almost everyone else combined. They're even filing patents and being granted, by the way, in the United States at a rate much greater than Tesla. So
Taylor, but
that's
let me ask you
their
something.
focus.
When you look at the battery lineup across the EV marketplace, you've got obviously BYD and the Blade technology. You've got the 4680 coming, hopefully. Here, it's going to come for Tesla, and it's going to be competitive. We will see a complete shift in that. I know Elon is definitely preparing for that. And then you've got what is happening over at Ford and also at GM, which are utilizing completely unique different platforms. If you look at all of those platforms, do you feel that the Blade, and of course, I guess the question is which one is going to play out in the next 5 years? Of course, we may see some big innovation and, just a lot of new developments in the battery tech in the next 5 years. But do you think BYD's Blade is going to be somewhat of the standard? I know we just did a video with you on the scenario with BYD and Apple potentially sliding in here. So there are some potentials here for future growth and integration into other models. Do you feel like
Yeah.
Blade could be the platform for the future?
Yes.
All right.
That type of battery, right? We're seeing a comeback with the LFP, the iron phosphate battery,
Right.
That was previously kind of, people thought it was just for buses and energy storage systems. Now it's making a comeback. Almost all of Tesla's Model 3s in China, made in China, are using LFP batteries from CATL, and so LFP is very big in China. Not so much in other parts of the world, but LFP batteries in general are safer. They're not as energy dense, but they can charge at much faster rates. And the cyclability, so how many miles they last. I've been in taxi cabs that use BYD's 6-year-old, 7-year-old battery technology that have gone over 500,000 miles on the same without any replacement. So the batteries last significantly longer.
Yeah.
But if we're comparing different batteries, it's not accurate to compare Tesla's 4680. Let's say that it does every single thing that Tesla claims that it will, versus Blade. Still, 4680 that's a high nickel cathode. So that's going to go into their highest performance vehicles. They actually, even at Battery Day, on the slide there with a car under the tarp and everything, the $25,000 Model A or whatever, that even said that's going to use an iron battery. So it's going to use an LFP battery. Yep. And again, we've talked previously about could BYD possibly supply that $25,000 car for Tesla with that battery. But so yeah, you can't really compare the two. But do you think there are going to be a lot more high performance sports cars and roadsters and semi trucks out there, or vehicles that cost $10,000 at the highest end?
Yeah, I think for the masses, we're definitely going the direction of lower cost vehicles, because it just is the evolution of where the market space is going. Whether the car manufacturers like it or not, you're going to see a small segment of the population, maybe 20%, maybe 25% of a segment of the population that will go with, the luxury vehicles, the high-end vehicles, the Cybertrucks of the world, the Ford, Lightnings. And I think that still is a decade away from really developing out the ecosystem of what electric vehicles are going to be, because it's still, at least here in the United States, probably not so much in China, but here in the United States, there is still this love affair with your vehicle, with your car. And it's such a truck nation. It's got a lot of those elements. It's going to be a longer time, even though I do think with the infrastructure plans in place and with just the amount of mainstream media pushing, climate control and all these kinds of scenarios, that we'll probably see a bigger and faster shift to maybe what you're talking about, which is going to be lower cost vehicles. And most likely either it's going to come through the likelihood of robo-taxi type networks, the DiDis of the world, the companies that are out there looking at truly replacing the need for a garage at a home and really going all in on sustainable, transportation, which will eventually be that direction. That would make a lot of sense with the strategy that BYD is taking with the Blade technology. So I would lie on your side of things. I think Tesla's going to win definitely in the luxury space, and they'll push all the other guys aside. I feel like I don't know that Lucid is going to be able to keep up with them. at
I agree.
least so far with what I've seen. And now with the Model S Plaid out, which I was very impressed with that. And I'm still, listen, I'm still a little disappointed in we should have seen some styling differences. Don't get me started on that stuff.
Yeah, me neither.
But you definitely see that going. Back to BYD on the Dolphin. Where could this vehicle make international debut outside of China? What countries do you feel like this could really start penetrating?
Uh, Not the United States.
Sure.
Hot hatches are big, obviously in Europe. So
Yeah.
Europe possibly, Australia. I think New Zealand would sell. This would sell very
Do
well.
well there. Yeah.
And people in those countries have been really excited by this, and also really frustrated that there's very little information in English on this. So I share in that frustration, and I hope that maybe we can facilitate a bit more spreading of information.
Why do you
on
think
some of these really
BYD
exciting vehicles.
is just not been able to, and we've talked about this before, they just have not been able to get past this communication gap. The product is amazing. I'm still fascinated by their technology and their strategy, their executive team. But once you move outside of the inner circles, it's almost an unknown brand.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to find people who can't talk about it without saying the words Warren Buffett. It's really all that people
No.
kind of know.
Yep.
In headlines, every single article, and they're always going to say it. I even find myself when I'm explaining it, I say, it's that company that Warren Buffett invested in, and then they say,
Yeah.
oh, right, that one. And so it's kind of the identifier for them. But yeah, we even talk to BYD and say, when are you going to really step this up? Your international PR, and they have been actually. I've noticed in just 2021 they've really stepped it up. But still, there are companies that are producing all of the other Chinese startups that are publicly traded. If you add up all of their sales every single month, BYD outsells them by far. And so but we know so much about NIO, and there are even people on Twitter with their bios that say, hashtag blue sky is coming. And they're super fans. Why doesn't BYD have? BYD has almost 250,000 employees. It's been around forever. Their electric buses and taxis are all over China, but also all over other countries as well. Even in the United States, they've sold 500 buses that they made in the United States. By the way, a lot of people don't even know that they have a factory in the U.S. They're the only Chinese EV company that has that kind of presence in the United States already. So yeah, it's frustrating. I find myself saying that a lot, but really at the end of the day, BYD they don't really care. They care about China. They care about their home country and selling cars there. And the reason that they are looking to expand into other countries is because if cars sell and I've told you this before, if cars sell in other countries, then they will sell in China. Because the Chinese consumers, same thing with clothing, same thing with cell phones. Huawei may have a better product overall than the latest iPhone in terms of battery, in terms of camera, in terms of screen resolution and everything. But if it isn't selling in the United States, people still want what the United States, what Americans are buying. So that's really why, and it's not just BYD. NIO's trying to do this, Li, Xiaopeng, they're all trying to do this. And again, one of them has to do it first, and we don't know who that's going to be. But yeah, so it can be frustrating. But they are, this could sell in Australia, like I said, this could sell in Europe. And if it does start selling well, and again, maybe it's not this one, maybe it's the UX model or the EK model, and we'll find out later this year. Maybe those will sell better. But yeah, hot hatches are a big thing in Europe, but I really see this selling well in China, and mostly China, maybe Japan, South Korea, but.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the good thing is BYD is continuing to diversify what they're doing in terms of the offering, which is really going to open up the marketplaces, because you're right, there's a lot of sectors right now that are not being served in the space of EV acquisition opportunities. We have that problem here in the United States. Very few vehicles available, especially when you get down into the under 30,000 market. There's a handful of companies that are even going, and the quality level, some good, some okay, not really any stars coming out of that category. So
I agree.
It's going to be interesting to see all this come about. Definitely going to keep a close eye, as always, on BYD. Taylor Ogan, Snowbull Capital, great to have you on the show again, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. This is fun.
All right, so you guys are listening in over on the podcast. Maybe make sure and give us some stars. That's the number one way we get your feedback on the audio side of the Tech Path show. If you are here on YouTube, the first thing you've got to do right now is subscribe to the show. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and also share this to somebody you know to talk about kind of the innovative tech that we cover here on Tech Path. Of course, if you have an idea for the show, send it to producer@revernetworks.com and hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Tech Path.